As the grunge metal band from the 90s, Stained, once said, it's been a while. Yes, hello everybody. It is the Dark Conservatarian back with you with another episode of. Dang it! I forgot to mute that tab right there. But nonetheless, hello. This is the Dark. This is the Dark Conservatarian of Strike Force, and I'm here with you. Another debate stream. It has been like over a year now. Actually, it's been like close to 2 years now. The last one was in 2019,
Wow.
where it was like with Night Shift versus Ham, and then it became Trucker versus Ham. That very
Wait,
entertaining one.
really?
You all know and love it. Yeah, I haven't hosted any debate at all last year, Trucker. But anyway, so here I am with my debaters who will be debating economics and more specifically capitalism versus communism. Here they are. Introduce yourself, guys.
Hello,
Hey,
I'm Reckless Trucker. If you've followed him for a while, you know me, blah, blah, blah words. I'm a capitalist.
Smiley?
All right. My name is SmileyP. I go by anarchist more than communist. I mean, they're kind of synonymous in my opinion. So it works either way. But I actually prefer the term libertarian socialist because that I think describes my beliefs most accurately, particularly because of the baggage that comes along with communism. I don't have a problem with communism ideologically, but given its historical what people associate with that word, I prefer anarchist or libertarian socialist.
Okay. And I have you guys' media's shield down in the description box there below. I shilled both of your Twitters and I shilled your YouTube channel, Smiley. I did not shill yours out, Trucker, mostly because you've been inactive on that one for quite a while. But if you really want it shilled, I will make the update if you really like to. Actually, maybe
I don't care.
All right, maybe I'll shill the Americana channel.
Shit,
Channel.
we really need to get to doing on that, man.
Yeah, so we need to find ourselves an editor. But anyway, so to cut into brass tacks right here, as we had decided off air, Smiley or actually now I cannot remember who. Okay, we decided on the Trucker. I mean, it gone kind of back and forth as to who was going to go first, but it is Trucker who is going to go first, and you guys might be familiar with the format if you have been longtime subscribers of the channel. The first the first thing that will be 5-minute opening statements for both debaters, and then 5-minute counter arguments for both debating opponents, and then we will get into cross-examination and you guys can line up your questions during that whole time. It'll be like 30 minutes in total, and then by the end of the 30 minutes, we will get into the actual addressing the chat and Q&A segment. Also serves at the same time a bit of an extended cross-examination time as well, as I like to typically do these debates. And then by the end of the 40 to 50 minutes of addressing the chat, we will get into 5-minute closing statements, 5 minutes for each opponent, that is, more specifically. But anyway, without further ado, I guess I will, 1 second, I am going to get out the timer. Trucker, are you ready?
Sure, let me zip my pants up.
You're not even on camera.
Oh, I won't stop then. All right, anyway, I'm ready.
All right, so your timer is starting now. Take it away, Trucker.
All right, so my contention in this is very simple, that all forms of communism, Marxism, socialism, whatever you want to refer to them, if they have a Marxist base, are nothing more than evil incarnate and nothing else. There is no good quality to them in any way, shape, or form. And the reason for that is multiple reasons, I should say. My first contention would be the collectivist nature of Marxism. It inherently steals the ability of the individual to, for one, profit from the value of their own labor. It also takes away from the ability of the individual to consent to the any contract, trade, or dealing between themselves or any other people within a power hierarchy. And furthermore, no matter what type of communism it is, whether it's syndicalism, anarchoism, which always just evolves into some form of syndicalism anyway, Marxist, specific Leninism, or Maoism, it also creates extreme power differentials and hierarchies that people are incapable of climbing the ladder, in which you always end up with a council of people that control everything for every people, either in the entire country or within regions of the country. And these are inevitably the elite of the society. And they, simply put, the elite do not understand the woes and troubles of the common man, no matter what society you've created. And this can go as far as being a council or a dictator, you know? But those are my basic contentions, that it steals consent, it steals labor, and it steals, and it creates strongman leaders who never understand the people. And that's my opening statement.
Oh, you don't. You have some more time.
alright,
You don't
alright.
want to explain what. Oh, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
wait,
I
wait,
thought you were
wait,
going to
wait,
explain
wait,
what your
Smiles,
position was.
Smiles.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, he was allowed to do whatever he wanted with his opening statement. He decided to yield it, unless you take it back a last second, Trucker. But nonetheless.
No, I'm purely on the offensive.
All right. So
Okay, I was
in
gonna.
that
All right.
case,
Well then.
I restarted the timer. Smiles, are you ready?
Ready when you are.
All right, your timer starts now.
Okay, so like I said, I am a anarcho-communist, anarchist, libertarian, you know, whatever you want to call it. I don't really like the word communism, but basically my ideal society is one where we have the most freedom available, both positive and negative. I think all hierarchies should be I believe in a skepticism towards all hierarchy, in the sense that if it is not self-evidently justifiable, I think it should be removed. I believe in flat hierarchies. I believe in as much democratization as possible. My ultimate goal would be, like I said, libertarian. I call it automated interplanetary libertarianism, where we would live basically in O'Neill cylinders around the sun, off of Earth, in basically Star Trek in real life. But obviously that's not going to happen tomorrow, especially with the looming climate change and everything that's going on. So currently my main goals are to educate people on what these ideas actually are, and to bring us into a sort of a social democratic society in America, where people have access to things, like healthcare, education, housing, nutrition, and basically, more power over their own lives, so that eventually we can live in the best sort of, we can live in the most freedom possible. Basically, I think that the first thing we should do is turn capitalism, or like make it like capitalism, but where we understand that it takes money to make money, and then just add more democracy there. Democratize workplaces, usually from larger firms downward, starting with places like Amazon and things like that. Basically, making all employees shareholders of the companies, and then we would move down from there until basically, we could do that. Eventually, moving on into full-on socialism, where all enterprises and means of production are owned by the workers, to full-on communism, libertarianism, where everything is owned by everybody. No, private property basically no longer exists. All that's left is personal property and public property. Personal property is not the same as private property. Private property, when I say private property, I am specifically referring to business property, property that is owned and designed for profit purposes, specifically to generate money from. Personal property would be things like your home, your toothbrush, your TV, your house, your food, your family, stuff that you basically own and use. But businesses would be owned by the employees and the people, the workers who actually, do the work in that term. And then everything else, like land, would be public property, and then of course everybody would have a place to live and stuff. So that's sort of my goal.
All right, was that the end of your time?
Yep, that would be it.
All right, with 1 minute and 33 seconds left, that is the closing of Smiles time. By the way, I muted you, Trucker, because I was getting some background noise. But Anyway, so resetting the timer right now, and Trucker will now get a 5-minute counter argument. So, Trucker, you ready?
Sure.
All right. Your timer begins now.
All right. So first off, I'm gonna, and I do not mean this to be offensive, but I'm gonna completely disregard your idea of we can be Star Trek, O'Neill cylinders around the sun, Dyson sphere, utopian idea
No
because
That's
because
the ultimate goal.
well, you're comparing the world to an idea, and an idea doesn't exist physically, and communism is material. So anyway,
I'm gonna pause your time for a second. Smiles, I guess I forgot to iterate to you off air and even on air that there will be absolutely no talking from the opponent while one person is laying out their opening or counter argument. Okay, Smiles?
Okay, and then after that, we do the open discussion?
Yes. Okay, so now continuing your timer now, Trucker.
All right, so instead I'll go in on some of the other stuff that you mentioned. For one, the frankly can be worded in no other way, shape, or form. Forceful and inevitably violent and murderous, because that's what it is. Forced de-ownership, for lack of a better word, because democratization is not the word to use for this. Of private businesses like Amazon, Google, Walmart, and don't get me wrong, I have my issues with all those companies, but the reality is that you'll never get this quote-unquote democratization of these large companies unless you murder everybody that currently owns these companies. Okay? And because, quite frankly, if you came at me and said I have to force anything that I own to become public property, you have to kill me to make that true. And I guarantee you that's true of every big business owner. What's more, your distinction of personal and private property is kind of silly when you consider that you included housing under that, because one of the largest ways that everybody makes money, and this includes billionaires and poor people, is through home ownership, which you just said is personal property. The selling of home ownership, the increase of equity over time, and stuff like that. What's more is you're talking about going into this world where nobody ever owns anything and everybody just does whatever. Under that system where there's no hierarchy of people, you're talking about getting rid of the managerial class and the people that basically the directors, movers, and shakers of groups of people. And without that class of people, the reality is that nobody will ever start a business ever, as shown by everything, all of history, because they have no reason to make themselves better and make the world a better place because they can't profit from it. And so you will end up in a similar scenario to Russia, where there's no innovation, there's no technological gain, nothing. You'll never achieve your O'Neill cylinder future. And because without gains, nobody's going to bother. So basically what I'm saying is your philosophy is, one, genocidal already, because that's what's going to happen. And two, it completely destroys the profit motive, which I get is a core part of it. But the problem is you destroy all motive to make the world a better place. Because the reality is humans are greedy. They will always be greedy. This is inherent to our nature. And without having a reason to make the world a better place, nobody will. And that's my close. That's the end of my statement there.
All right, so with 1 minute 39 seconds left, that is the end of Trucker's counter argument. I was taking down some chat comments there. We already have some questions rolling in as we speak right now. But anyway,
Nice.
Smiles, are you ready for your 5-minute response?
Yes, I am. So I believe.
All right, so yeah, your timer starts now.
All right. Yes. So I believe we have a misunderstanding of communication here, because you're absolutely right. I agree that I don't think USSR, China, communism like that is a good idea at all. I think that one party anything authoritarianism is a problem. My ideology is the opposite of authoritarianism. My ideology is specifically to give as many people the opportunity to advocate for themselves as possible. So instead of having, you know, the universal information board or whatever, or, you know, the censorship board, basically everybody would have, you know, free speech in what they have to say. Now, certain communities would probably have certain terms of services in order to advocate against things like hate speech. But I do believe in absolute freedom of speech having the capacity of existing. I think anybody should be able to say anything that they want and criticize anyone. However, I do think that there is certain ways that work better for criticism and others. And I am a firm believer in the paradox of tolerance, which is, of course, that if you are tolerant to all ideas, which comes from free speech, intolerance eventually comes in, and authoritarianism sort of generates, and we can sort of, we devolve into whatever we, you know, whether it be, you know, it basically becomes fascism, whether it's, you know, like, you know, Chinese, quote, Chinese, or communism with Chinese characteristics, whatever that means, or, you know, Marxism, Leninism, which was only invented by Stalin to gain power. It's not an actual ideology. People who say that are what's called tankies, and they are people who advocate for places like China and the USSR, and some of them even advocate for North Korea. And when I found out that there are people who unironically think that North Korea is a good place to be, I was like, baffled. My jaw dropped. I could not believe that these people exist. How could you possibly call yourself a leftist and go with North Korea? So that's why I'm sort of moving away from the term communism, and I'm moving towards classical libertarianism, because of course the term libertarianism is basically it's the ideology of freedom. It comes from the word liberty, libertarianism. First coined by the philosopher Joseph Jacques. He was French. I don't know his name. You can find him on Wikipedia. But he was an anarchist leftist who he invented the term libertarianism, and eventually it is the ideology of freedom. Basically, give as many people as much opportunity to have access to both positive and negative freedoms. There are two types of freedoms. There's positive freedoms, which are the ability to do something, and then negative freedoms. What we have in America and under capitalism is a lot of protection from so-called negative freedoms, as in freedom from things, freedom from the government to take away this or that, or freedom from, you know, the taxes, basically. Freedom from being taxed is the main one. So I think that we need to, you know, keep freedom from, but also encourage a lot of freedom to. Like, for instance, you have a lot of freedom to do stuff in America too, but you really only have a freedom to do what you can pay for, which is not really freedom if you can't pay for things like education or healthcare or stuff like that. And going back to specifically home expropriation, the expropriation of housing and landlordship, I believe that. Okay, thank you. I believe that each person is entitled to a simple home, like an apartment or something, but of decent quality that you could live in, with a kitchen, basically, you know, everything, 4 walls, a roof, heating, internet, all that good stuff, food. And then if you want more, then you would have to work for it and, you know, figure it out from there. But there's, you know, and I believe that should be it. That's about all I would have to say to that.
All right, so with 26 minutes, or 26 seconds left on the clock, that is the end of Smiles' second, or his first rebuttal statement. So anyway, I'm going to reset the timer so that it is longer and we can get on to the cross-examination, which begins right now.
Is this the open discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Sir Ree, you want to go first, or should I?
Yes, please. I have a question. So, what is your ideal society? What do you think the world? What do you think is the best version of the world that we could possibly have?
First off, I don't deal in ideal societies. I don't deal in best possible, because you always end up bumping into basically an ideal, and an ideal will never work in the real world. That's just the reality. But setting
That's
that
not
aside,
necessarily true.
yes, it is. A
I mean,
utopianism
how
will
is,
be the
isn't that what
same.
innovation is?
No.
I mean,
What you're
innovation
talking
comes
about
from
is
an
Wait,
idea.
you're
we're running out of time,
talking.
guys.
Okay.
What you're talking about is utopianism. What is my utopia? What's your utopia? What's this
Yeah.
person's utopia? And I was about to say, but setting aside these realities, if I wasn't a realist, or you might consider it a pessimist, I would be an anarcho-capitalist. But I'm a realist because, frankly, anarcho-capitalism devolves into will inevitably devolve into feudalism. That's the reality of the matter.
Yes. I'm glad you understand that too, because some people don't.
No, I've had it out. I've had debates with anarcho-capitalists before, and
yeah,
hilariously enough, they're the only people that are more screechy than, no offense, more screechy than communist.
All right.
Like I said, I'm not a communist, really. I don't call myself a communist, so no offense taken.
But
people call me a communist, but I don't necessarily take it.
But so let me ask you a question then. So you spoke about. Let me sort out the fucking previous statement. 1 second. So you mentioned positive rights, right?
Positive freedoms, yes.
Yeah. No, they are not positive freedoms. They're positive rights. There's a difference.
Okay, then that was not what I said. I said positive freedoms. What are positive?
Well,
rights?
I know. Well, a freedom is a freedom from. A right is a right to. It's basically positive, negative freedoms, but I personally don't allow the idea of positive freedoms, because to me that's an oxymoronic statement. But anyway.
But you believe in positive rights?
No, I don't. I think they are disgusting, evil, and always end up in forced labor camps.
Okay. So where were you going with that?
I was going to ask this. So let's say that, for example, you have a town with only one doctor, and somebody has a quote-unquote right to healthcare under your philosophy. And then somebody has some disease that's easily curable, but only by a doctor.
Presumably, most diseases are.
Right, but you get my point. I'm being specific here. But that doctor hates that dude's guts for whatever reason. Like that dude boinked his sister and now he hates him. Whatever, right?
Okay.
And so the doctor absolutely refuses to give this guy medical treatment because he hates him.
Okay.
How would you fix that scenario if this is the only doctor available and you can't bring in outside resources?
Okay. How would you fix this scenario? Let me ask you that first.
Simple. You don't have a right to someone else's labor.
So
sorry,
you say that
you're going to die. Yeah, you're going to die.
Okay.
You don't have a right to other people's labor.
Okay. So what you're describing is a sort of tribal society that has no connection to the greater world.
That's the point of a thought experiment, is to isolate the idea.
Well, I think in your idea, I don't actually think, I mean, other than the fact that, tribal societies are typically anarchistic in that they are sort of, they're made of a tribe. They're all family. Everybody down there knows each other. If somebody
and everybody dies by the time they're 30.
Yeah, there's no medicine. It's a primitive thought. It's a primitive society. It just sounds like, I guess, if that person is so hated and that society is so small because that person, it just sounds like a primitive society. Like, we're not talking about reality. I would like to talk about like what's happening in life right now.
No. This is the point of the thought.
Okay. Go ahead and continue, Smiles.
I would say here, if you live in America as it is, and you have, and you are and you hurt and you break your leg, you go to the hospital, but the leg doctor doesn't like you, I think that maybe we should just bring you to a different leg doctor then. Or if anything, it sounds like your job is to be a doctor. So I don't like, you chose to do that. I don't think that you have the freedom to to say no, but only if there's another doctor. Yeah.
All right, Smiley, you've discussed enough. I get your point. My point is that this is a thought experiment. The point of a thought experiment is to isolate the idea, right?
Okay.
So play along with me. This scenario is the only one. And let's even add the factor that this doctor is the only person that hates this guy. Everyone else loves him to death. Everybody loves him except that doctor.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right? What is your solution to this scenario where you can't get an outside doctor to help him? Keep in mind, it's a thought experiment. The point is, it's not
just
realistic.
A hypothetical. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
It doesn't really represent any situation in reality. But
all right. Well,
if that
just answer the question.
I guess then the doctor would be kicked out, maybe? I don't know. Like, it seems like if everybody loves this guy, but the doctor's the only one that doesn't like him, everybody else probably doesn't like the doctor then, because the doctor sounds like an asshole who doesn't do his job.
So what you're saying is either the doctor is forced to do his labor, which he does not consent to, or off to Gulag, or off to Gulag.
Well, there wouldn't be a gulag in this scenario because there wouldn't be enough people or technology level to have a gulag. But here. Let me offer you this.
You get my point.
There wasn't a gulag in the original point. They don't have a thing.
I want to interject for a second. I think what Trucker meant to say was that was only a metaphor. He wasn't talking about literal gulags in your scenario, Trucker or Smiley.
What I'm saying is that eventually, under this scenario, your philosophy will force you to either change your philosophy, or will force you to tyrannize the guy, which inherently changes your philosophy also. Because under the idea of positive rights, at some point, somebody is being forced to do labor.
Okay,
and that's the reality of positive rights.
And you're absolutely right. And you got me there. I have to concede in that situation that it doesn't work. Now, let me ask you a thought experiment. So imagine a guy is walking down the street and he breaks his leg. And has to go to the hospital. Oh, damn it, he's homeless, so he can't afford his medical bills. There's a hospital right there. Let's say he breaks his leg by getting hit by an ambulance. So the ambulance was driving in and
wait,
do you think that this guy deserves to die because he can't afford his health care?
I'm sorry, I don't know why, but the imagery of that is kind of fucking hilarious.
That's why I said it, because that's what you're.
This sounds like a fucking. For. This sounds like a. Sounds like a Looney Tunes skit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. So
anyway,
okay, so homeless Joe hits by an ambulance, can't afford his medical bills. What do you do?
All right, Trucker, address it.
Is he just? Yeah.
Wait.
No. Here's the thing. This is why I'm not an anarcho-capitalist, because under the quote-unquote ideal system of anarcho-capitalism, when it runs into reality, homeless dude dies, right?
Yeah.
But
often,
right. So here's the thing. I'm not.
Hey, Smiles, let him finish.
Excuse me.
Fair enough.
Excuse me, but I'm not an anarcho-capitalist by any measure, and. Excuse me. And I do believe that there should be some form of, keep in mind, you're talking to the most libertarian of libertarian people, but even I'm as libertarian as reality will allow me. I should specify that. I'm American right-wing libertarian. Anyway.
Neo-libertarian.
No.
I'm classical libertarian.
Maybe neo-libertarian might be interesting. Anyway, let me finish my point here.
Yeah.
Under my actual ideal system in which I, butt up against reality itself, I would say that the current American system, while flawed, is almost good in that he will end up getting medical treatment, and he might end up in debt for the rest of his life, but he's also homeless, so you kind of expect that in the first place. And to me, there's two problems with homelessness. Ignoring the fringes of, ignoring the fringes of the problem of homelessness. One is the largest factor, I would say, is mental health issues, which no society ever is good at handling for some reason. And I wouldn't even begin to understand how to handle that because I'm not a psychologist. Well, I'm not a psychologist, and I think mental illness is a byproduct of a comfortable society, because when you get stuck in your head, it's easy to go crazy. But more than that, go ahead.
So you describe yourself as very neo-libertarian. What are the you're not a big fan of regulations, correct? But
get rid of 90% of them.
What is the 10% of regulations that you do think are acceptable?
Pollution regulations, as far as like, hey, don't fucking literally unload poop into my river where I fish.
Okay.
Not on the level of the EPA, because the EPA, I don't know if you've seen it, like 80% of their the rules they make up are just insane. Like, for example,
I'm not a fan of most American.
Well, here's a great example. My dad is a distiller. He makes a liquor, right? And part of the liquor process, you end up with corn or oats that you have to ferment, right? Well, according to current EPA regulations, he has to dispose of that in a blah, 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 blah manner, which basically just means pay someone else to deal with it, right? Yeah, but at the same time, these are literal oats and corns. You could literally dump them into a random ditch, and deer and animals will come out the wazoo to eat it because, they love oats. They're animals. But at the same time, other regulations like, hey, don't just throw depleted uranium in my river is fair enough. So you get my point.
So how about this? Would you agree to if I may, would you agree to a regulatory body that was created in the sense that so that someone like your dad could donate their used oats into a sort of an animal preservation thing to kill two birds with one stone?
Well, a regulatory body, no. But I would say, if I had my ideal world, one day I was dictator and I got to do one policy, what I would do is assign, like, in every regulatory body, like, you are like required by law to have one redneck on your regulatory board.
So you think
one urban poor person and one urban poor person on your regulatory board.
I think that's great. I think that I totally agree. I think all regulatory bodies should be as horizontal as possible.
I agree too on that matter. But
let Smiles have a little bit of time.
I'm
Chuck,
sorry,
I just want to say, because you have been talking for quite a bit.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I believe all regulatory bodies, particularly ones, I think any body that that people are involved in, should be represented by those who are involved in it. For instance, if the EPA wants to talk about how your father, let me speak, talks to how your father should dispose of his corn, I believe that people like your father should be able to then also be consulted on how that EPA regulation works, to find out that maybe there is a sort of connection that they could in fact bring those corns into farms, and then farms could then feed their livestock a lot easier off of the beer that we use. And guess what? It's cheaper for everybody. It's
real quick. Real quick, because this will actually move into a second point I wanted to bring up. And but basically what you are saying, and this is very different from a lot of other things, and so let's isolate this. What you're saying is basically no regulation without representation.
I totally agree. Yeah, no regulation.
Right.
No, I would not want anyone telling me what to do without my say. I am a
No, and I
libertarian.
agree
I think
100.
that you should. Yeah, I think that you should represent yourself. I am a classical libertarian. I think that you should be as liberty as possible. No taxation, no regulation without representation. Do not talk about us
First-
without us.
All right,
Mutual aid.
Trucker.
I would also say you need to add a leftist or a leftism marker to that identification, just so that way people don't, because the
Classical.
American no, that's not.
Classical.
Wait,
No,
let,
no.
let Trucker speak.
In the no, it might be true in the purely hypothetical, I read these books, blah 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 sense, but in
it's
the
the
American culture,
Wait. Let Trucker speak, Smiles.
Okay.
how
okay,
many
go ahead.
people have read? Yeah, no, but in the American cultural context, libertarianism is identifiable with right-wingism too.
You're
It
right.
really is.
I think that we
No,
should take it
so
back.
that's why I'm saying no. That's why I'm saying you should add a left-wing marker to it,
Okay, so
just so that way
libertarian
there's.
socialist.
But that's a separate thing.
Libertarian socialist is the other one I go by.
That would describe you. Yeah, use that.
So
'Cause
libertarian.
if you don't have a left-wing marker to it, people will think you're more like me than you are.
I do agree, and I actually kind of do that on purpose because I think that it's important that libertarianism be actually understood in the proper vernacular. But I also say that
let's
because
move
we
on.
have a
Wait,
lot in common.
Trucker.
Libertarian-
Let Smiles get a little
sorry.
a few more seconds.
Thank you. I think that libertarian socialism is totally fine because you're absolutely right in that the common, particularly American vernacular, libertarian is associated with right wing. But I actually believe that, and this is my personal opinion, that the libertarians took that name and stole it in order to make people think that that's what it meant. Now, that's just a crazy conspiracy theory of mine. However, I think libertarian socialist is a perfectly fine moniker, and I think that it's important to understand it, and especially because you think because the libertarian is basically the same thing as anarchist. So the question is, how libertarian, how anarchistic are you? However, I believe in the anarchism, the libertarianism, the socialism, where it is based on mutual aid and working together, rather than it is an individual has the right to do like here. Let me actually change the subject. What you said earlier that you don't believe in human rights. Is that true?
No, holy shit, no.
No. Okay. What did you say?
I don't believe in positive rights.
Okay. So what do you believe in?
Freedom from. That's it.
Freedom from what?
Government tyranny, violation of your own consent, and violation of your bodily autonomy from other individuals. That's
Okay.
it. That's
So-
that right there lays out pretty much everything you can extrapolate my philosophy from.
Okay. So freedom from authoritarian tyranny is a big one, right?
Government tyranny, because all governments are authoritarian to some extent.
And so are corporations. All corporations are authoritarian because literally they are, as you said, pure capitalism is just feudalism. I think that because, so I do believe in human rights. I think that it is. I think that if you are, I think it's kind of funny how a lot of people are like to say that they're pro-life, but they don't care about the life once it's born. They will do anything to make sure that baby gets born, even though you're less likely to have an abortion if you learn about safe sex. But after that, if you believe in pro-life, shouldn't that life be worth living? But that's just a quick tangent. I do believe in human rights. I think that everybody, basically, I believe in if we're going to live under capitalism.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm almost done. I think that it takes money to make money. So I believe that if we live in capitalism, a society where people have the capacity to become so unbelievably rich that they could never spend all of their money, so rich that they're literally planning, they're creating their own, space agency. I think that if people have the ability to become that wealthy, we should not allow homelessness. If we can allow people to become that wealthy, we shouldn't allow people to become destitute. people should have. It takes money to make money, and if we're going to live under capitalism, I think that that is only fair. I think that that is the least we can do. We can provide people basic housing, education, healthcare, including mental health care, and basic
Almost done,
nutrition.
Smiles.
And that'll be it. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, because I want to give
All right.
Trucker some time. Go on.
Mhm.
All right, so there's a lot of stuff in there I would love to go after. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love to go after a lot of that. But I'm going to, and some of that strikes me personally, because I am, for example, hardcore pro-life. Anybody who has an abortion or commits an abortion is a doctor, is a murderer. You get the electric chair and die.
Oh, staying on this subject, though.
Anyway, no, exactly. I'm giving him a point of something that is freakishly personal for me.
Okay.
So, moving on. But I'm going to set everything you said, because I'm going after ideas specifically, right?
Perfect.
Okay. So another great example I wanted to move on to was, this was the second or so part of your ideas, is so you said you're free speech, you're pro free speech, and then you threw in a handful of vague caveats, right?
Would you like me to repeat them?
No, I remember what they are. The paradox of tolerance and pro free speech, with the possibility of local communities instituting hate speech laws.
Yeah, look, like basically like terms of conditions, like
Right.
corporations do.
All right. Well, let me just point this out. In order to be pro free speech, you have to, at least to some extent, be anti-democracy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be, because freedom of speech is not a democratic idea. Freedom of speech is the idea that the government cannot make a law saying that you can't say, or that you have to say X, right? And that is an inherently anti-democratic idea, because now you are taking away the power of the government, no matter how democratic it is, to make a law about something, even if the people democratically vote for it. Okay, and this
Mm-hmm.
and this is something our founders of America understood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that in order to preserve freedoms and avoid things like the paradox of tolerance, which is a thing that can happen, you have to be inherently anti-democratic. You have to be pro-republic with constitutional limits, thus a constitutional republic, right?
Mm.
And because because the idea of the paradox of tolerance is that if you tolerate Nazis, then eventually Nazism will spread throughout society, and then they'll just vote in a bunch of Nazi bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
As an example. Well, the way to mitigate that is to say, no, you can't democratically vote to be a Nazi, right? You can't democratically vote to take away my right to speech, my right to religion, my right to freedom of press, and my right to firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
See,
and my point is this, is that if you if you democratize everything, you invite things like Nazism, because now you make it easier for people to democratically decide to be that.
Are you done?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I totally agree that if we enacted direct democracy overnight, like right now, that wouldn't be anarchism. That would be anarchy. That would just be chaos. I believe that, like I said, I believe that all hierarchy should be the skepticism of all self. I'm trying to think of the best way to word it, but basically, hierarchy must be self-evidently justifiable. So essentially, I think that we should have as much democracy as possible, and up to and including full direct democracy. However, I don't think direct democracy is a good idea until we have created institutions for free and encouraged unlimited education, for instance, so that people can learn whatever they want, and they can learn as much as they can and understand the actual topics that things are being discussed, and then they can actually make an informed decision during a democratic vote in a certain case. I also don't think that first past the post is necessarily always the best method for democracy. I think that I'm not sure if you're familiar with the channel CGP Grey, but he has a great video playlist on different
Keys of Power
systems. Yeah,
I love the Keys of Power, Sarah.
Yep. I watched that video too. That's a very important thing to know, and that's why CGP Grey is actually an example of free education allowed to everybody. I think that we should have. Have you seen his Aristotle for Everybody video? I think that is an amazing idea. I think that we should use the power of artificial intelligence and AI to basically see what people are good at, let them go to school for free. I also think that school should not only be completely free, but I think that school should be completely uncompulsory. I think maybe up till maybe like 12 or 13, it should be compulsory, but after that, you should not have to go to school if you do not want to.
Real quick, at this point, you're advocating. Sorry.
Well, Smiles, can I
just finish?
Okay, go ahead. And I want to add that we have 3 minutes and 50 seconds left. Go on, those Smiles.
Okay, so I was just going to say that, I think that people should be given, education should be free and encouraged, but not ever required. Outside of, again, a certain age that could be democratically decided if 12 or whatever is not good enough. On to you.
Real quick, first off, what you're advocating for sounds more like a words. The Japanese model, which I am full-blown in advocacy for the Japanese model myself, but you sound like an advocate for the Japanese model. And
I'm not sure what it is exactly.
And basically, high school's treated like college. College is treated like super high school. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but continue.
You choose your high school, and different high schools have different advantages, disadvantages, specializations.
Okay, so you go to school for it's like all their high schools are technical schools, basically.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
or they're college schools like philosophy, whatever the hell, right?
Yeah,
they have specializations. Anyway, and then college is just next level high school at that point, because at that point, anyway. But it also sounds like I could quite easily persuade you into a voucher system instead of the current union advocated for system that we have in our country these days.
And how would you do that? I'm open to any ideas.
Basically the amount of money that your kid has is attached to him directly, for education. And you have a voucher, and you just give it to the school that you want your kid to go to, instead of this thing where the school you go to is currently tied to your zip code. Because, quite frankly, and this allows you to take your kid to private schools, Catholic schools, Muslim schools, public schools, but of your choice, and or even homeschooling, because, quite frankly, I don't believe some official that's never met you has a better idea what education your child needs than you do.
I agree.
But let me finish this point.
Go right ahead.
But that's an off-topic thing, I'll admit. But first off, let me point this out too. I think in 10, 15 years, you'll end up as a constitutional Republican. I really do.
Maybe. I don't care what the label is, honestly. Like I said, I prefer libertarian, but I'll go with whatever. I don't care what you call me as long as my beliefs are clear.
Right. Well, I called this about Sargon of Akkad. I said he'd be. I predicted he'd be what he is today 5 years ago. But anyway, back on subject here. The other problem I have.
Republics.
Let Trucker finish.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have with collectivism is deeper than that, is that it directly violates the ability of the individual to consent. And that's why I like the current system, even though it does have its flaws. And there are ways that I would like to improve it.
Are we still talking about school?
Everything generally. Like, let's just take one example.
Let's try to keep it on school if we can.
15 seconds. Go on, Trucker.
I want to move past the school, because I want to talk about the value of a labor. The value of one's labor should be decided by the individual and the one who is hiring him. Because whether that hiring be by the government, the collective, the fucking company, whatever, right? That should be a negotiation between the individual and whatever organization and or individual they're negotiating with. This is why I'm anti-union. Admittedly, in the 1900s, when they were literally dropping Molotovs on unions, they were necessary. Nowadays, not so much.
All right,
What is
make a very quick response, or I guess ask a question, Smiles, and then we're going to get right into the question segment.
Cool. So for the school thing, I just wanted to finish up that I think that you should have the absolute choice in whatever school you want to do. But I just, including homeschool, but I don't think it should be voucher. I think it should just, all schools should be well funded and have access to, whatever they want and give people that access. If they wanted to go to a religious school, I do not like the divide of private and public schools. And as we both agree, we don't think that your zip code should decide the school you go to. I think you should be able to decide the school you go to based on the school that you want to go to. If it's available, and all options should be, as many options as possible should be available, and you should go there. As for unions, I mean, if it isn't for, unions are what keep the employers from coercing their employees, because when you're, obviously it is technically voluntary to get a job or not, but if the choice between getting a job is getting this job and starving, or getting this job and going home to your house, I think that getting your job and starving is completely coercive and not okay. Okay, yeah, good. Coercive is the death way. Yeah, I believe that's
real quick. I really want to respond to that, but I'll hold off unless you can allow me some 30 to 40 seconds for that.
No, I did. We do have to get onto it before I procrastinate on it so much. But anyway, so I guess we'll decide. This subject that you wanted to get on, Trucker, might come up in the questions when we get to addressing those. I guess we'll make it 45 minutes. But so I'm liking the discussion thus far, the debate thus far. If you all in the live chat are liking it yourself, well then please don't forget to hit that like button down below, as it will help boost in the algorithm and get this more in the recommendations of even more of my subscribers than it has already. So,
if you don't like this stream, you're a bad person and you hate puppies.
There you go.
I'm sorry, that's not my species, Trucker. I'm not a dog. No, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get to the questions. All right. I'm gonna have to try to get things arranged.
I believe in rights, by the way.
I have them.
I'm just saying.
I have them written down mostly in my Google Drive. We're going to start right now. So first question was Ozma Ordo. Why not? Let's live around the sun and burn ourselves to death. What could go wrong? I guess that was more snark than anything, but do you want to address that very quickly?
I could answer that question.
I can too. Honest, I know a lot about this.
But go on, Smiles.
You know about O'Neill cylinders and what are Dyson swarms and Dyson spheres?
I'm studying a lot of this stuff right now because I'm actually working on something that I'm not going to reveal.
Okay, yeah. Well, basically, I think that person, if I could share my screen, that would be great. But if not, no worries. Wait.
Go ahead. But I have a YouTube video suggestion for them to watch. But you go on with your point, and I'll suggest it.
We'll likely link it.
Yes, I love Isaac Arthur. Isaac Arthur, O'Neill cylinders. Yes.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah. See, I think we have a lot in common, my friend. I think you don't realize how much in common we are.
No, I think you don't realize. Like I said, I think you'll become more like me than you realize.
Well, I hope that we can learn from each other. Mutual aid. Next question.
Yeah. So next question was from Metal Doomer. Do you expect for everyone to stand in line for this? I'm pretty damn sure that was referred more to Smiles in regards of his ideology. So what do you have to say to that, Smiles?
I don't understand the question. What are they asking about standing in line for?
Can you repeat the question? Because I understand Metal Doomer very well.
So you expect for everyone to stand in line for this? I think essentially what he's meaning is you expect everyone to agree to this ideology, this worldview that you are espousing.
Do you think he's asking? Do you think that your ideology can actually be achieved without mass violence and coercion on your own part?
Yes. I don't think that everybody's going to agree, as we know, but I do think it's possible. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the utopianism in there, man.
So I guess we'll leave that right there. Next question is, JC Armitage wrote out a full paragraph here. So let me get this straight. My 3D printer would be, air quotes, personal property, but if I use the same 3D printer to make firearm frames and sell them to others, then said 3D printer would become private property? Yeah, because that's not arbitrary at all. How do you want to address that?
Real quick. That is a better way of talking about what I was saying earlier than with housing. That is, thank you, JC. Love that.
I think I think 3D printers should be guaranteed personal property. I think everybody should have one.
What about the profits from 3D printers? Because not everybody's going to have the initiative, the drive, or the fucking
even
intelligence.
Think about it like this. I think that the idea eventually of private property should be eradicated in the Isaac Arthur future, but in the here and now,
no.
I think that in that case, private property should be shared among the people who use it. If you are the only worker and you own the that means of production, which is what that would be, then yeah, you have complete control over it. I see no reason why you should have to share that with anybody if no one else uses it but you. However, I also think that everybody should.
Wait, go on.
Everybody should. I think that everybody should be. Everybody should have the access to a 3D printer. They're an amazing piece of technology.
This sounds vaguely reminiscent of the Stefan Molyneux Voss point of why isn't your business a co-op of two people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's
which
why
I have my issues. I have my issues with Stephen Molyneux because
I hope you do. Jesus.
yeah.
Anyway, though, continue.
But anyway, I have my issues with him. But on that point, he absolutely fucking obliterated Voss's butthole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I specifically said that it should be in terms of if the government must be involved in terms of turning large firms into co-ops, it should be from the top down and not from the bottom up. I think that, like it makes more sense to start where it's biggest and makes the most sense, and then we can find the line, because it's absolutely true that, your 3D printer does not, your 3D printer business is not, makes no sense to be a co-op. You're the only one who does the 3D printing.
Right. Well, here's the thing about that. What about access to the resources of 3D printing? Because there's no way to get those resources, the composites, the materials. Like you literally have to drill oil from the middle of the planet, not literally the middle of the planet, but you get my point. From the crust of the planet itself. You have to pull that up.
Petroleum.
You have to refine. You have to separate. You got to refine again. And this is something that cannot be done without millions, if not billions of dollars of investment. And quite frankly, nobody's going to be very good at that other than individual organizations. Because the government is horrible at everything it's ever done ever.
All right, so Smiles, address that very quickly if you'd like, and then we ought to get on to the next question.
I would say yes. So
go ahead.
If people, I would just say really quick, if people want to, gather all the, the thing. First of all, I would say, since we're running out of fossil fuels very quickly, we should definitely move past that as an energy source, first of all. And then second of all, I would say, I would have a bunch of people democratically establish a firm that could create that sort of industry. And then we have as many people devote as much resources as possible and that they wish to it. So that, say if you want a 3D printer, provide what you can to create this infrastructure system, and then when we have it established, then boom. And then of course, obviously the idea would be to mine it from space, because we have to get off of Earth as soon as possible.
Okay, Strucker, the subject might come up later in the questions, but we also might have spare time to go over some past subjects as well, as we're getting through them fairly quickly. So next question is from Metal Doomer. He asks, did you just say hate speech? And so I think what he's meaning more specifically is when you were talking about free speech being allowed within an ANCOM commune or whatever exact society that you want to organize, Smiles, you want hate
libertarian
speech to be
socialist.
Okay, fair, whatever it be. But essentially you want hate speech to be disallowed within the community, banned, in other words.
Is that the question?
I think that's essentially what he's trying to get at, but his exact text was, did you just say hate speech?
So
I was trying to help expound on this question.
Yeah, assuming the question is, should we get together and find a group of words that are defined as hate speech and then outlaw them? No. I think that every community should be able to democratically decide what words are considered hate speech and what words are not in that environment. And then you should basically, it's based on which environment you associate yourself with.
All right, let me ask you this. Would you consider misgendering somebody who's trans hate speech?
In public spaces on purpose, yes. I would consider that bigotry of any kind to be a form of hate speech, yes.
All right, well, right there, I disagree with you.
Okay, well then again, it'd be up to the environment in a public space.
Sure.
I think that would be considered.
Well,
hate speech,
what
and
you're saying is, as long as they agree with me.
Okay, I think he was done, Trucker. Go ahead.
And what you're basically saying is, hopefully, the community agrees with me, and I get to tyrannize people like me.
Yeah, if you're in a community where that's acceptable, then that's acceptable. However, I just don't think that there would be that many communities of that.
Well, at that point, you're violating my individual consent because I don't agree.
Well, you wouldn't be allowed in the communities where it wasn't allowed, but you would be allowed to do it in the community where it was.
Yeah,
that's
well,
not
you get
a
my
little
point.
Confusing.
No, you get my point, though, is that
do you get mine?
You are, yeah, I get your point. I think it's absolutely silly because what if I have quote unquote personal housing on that community? What, they're going to kick me out? What am I going to do now? Become a nomad?
If it's in your apartment, I think you could misgender anyone you want for any reason.
Right.
I don't see
why.
Well,
you're more fucking flexible than a lot of leftists these days on that issue.
Because I'm the only actual leftist online, besides maybe Vosh, but he's still not quite there.
Oh, Vosh is a horrible person. He's evil.
So okay, yeah, I mean,
I disagree, but I think
I kind of am in the same camp as a Trucker, but this ain't a conversation about cults of personality or but political icons in general on the internet or otherwise. But
is there any questions for me? Because like these keep getting thrown at him.
Yes, most of them were thrown more at Smiles, but we're getting more into the questions that are directed towards you, Trucker. It's almost 50-50, if not 60-40, more than being towards Smiles. But here's one that is for you, Trucker. And I'm only asking this, by the way, Doomer, because of the fact that it kind of does relate to economics. But I want to ask Trucker if giving our tax money to Israel is theft.
Well, I believe that the vast majority of taxation is theft. But in the case of Israel, I find it really, really what I find annoying about the case of Israel is that we are a military ally with them in every way except literally. And with a military ally, right. And like, for example, if somebody were to invade Israel substantially, we would come to their aid. We would shoot people that were invading Israel. And quite frankly, seeing as they're the only quote unquote Western, they're not a democracy, republic in the Middle East that, doesn't throw gays off buildings, that doesn't tax you for not being whatever religion they are and whatnot. We should.
Sorry.
Yeah. We should have them as an ally because we should ally ourselves with people who are like us militarily. And that's kind of why I really don't like the current framework with Israel, in which they're our military allies in every way except legally.
I guess more specifically on the issue of tax money that goes to Israel, though.
yes and no, in that we actually do profit as far as technological advancement and whatnot from them, but it's a deal in which they are aided more than we are. But at the same time, innocent civilians aren't allowed to be, bombed by Islamic extremists. And in that case, I lean more towards pro money towards Israel than anti. But I understand why people would be anti that. It's just that for me, considering the nature of Hamas, the genocidal, homophobic, murderous nature of the people they're surrounded by, I'd rather help them.
Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to say very quickly, Smiles, and then I'll let Trucker respond, and then we'll go on to the next question.
Yeah, I say don't use my tax dollars without my permission. I don't vote for that. I vote no. I think that's stupid. We shouldn't have done that.
All right.
Well, I personally think we should go throughout Hamas, Palestinian Authority, and half of Israeli half of Middle Eastern governments, and just deal with them.
We are all entitled to our own opinions.
So yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say, Smiles. Thank you. And so moving on to the next question. This is a question from Scorch. I think it might be more applicable to Smiles. Once you become a doctor, you lose. Why become a doctor?
Should I go first?
Sure, Smiles.
Okay. Because you want to. I mean, you get to save people's lives. It's freaking awesome. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. And most people, I mean, who would you rather was your doctor? Somebody who went through all that school and education because they wanted to do it? I have a friend who's studying to be a nurse, by the way. She is doing so amazing. She just literally can't afford to go to school, but she bought all the books and stuff. So she's studying. She could pass all the tests. She just literally can't do it because of that arbitrary, just gatekeeping that she can't get through, that unnecessary hierarchy in her way. But yeah, people, if you don't like, who would you rather is your doctor? Somebody who became a doctor because they wanted to, or somebody who just did it because of the money?
Either one, as long as they're the most skilled person I can afford or exist.
Yeah.
I don't believe. No.
Go ahead, Trucker. I was just pointing that you can go. I'm giving you time.
What you're talking about is this absolutely hilarious idea that popped up a while ago on Twitter. Is if without profit incentive, why would anybody do anything? And then people responded with, "Oh, hobbyists." Like, well, excuse me, but there aren't a lot of shit cleaning hobbyists on the planet, especially not enough for 7 billion people. There aren't enough.
The answer to that one too, actually.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah, the answer is automation. I think that.
Sure.
Yeah, basically, so what we would do is people who, basically the way what I would imagine we would democratically decide, given the opportunity, would be that shit, needs to be cleaned. So, we have people who once a week, first of all, we find people who used to be janitors or whatever and already don't mind. And we give them, hold on, I can't really, the water was a little loud. It's okay though.
Damn it, Trucker. No, I think it was his crunching chips there. Yeah, some chips.
As I was saying, basically what we would do is we would take the position of janitor, make it, basically bring all the janitors together to keep things clean and put them on a sort of give and take basis. And then as soon as possible, automate the job so that nobody has to do it anyway. And basically that applies to all bullshit jobs.
One second, I got something in my
pretty quick.
So sorry, what, Smiles?
I said I think we could actually do that pretty quickly, believe it or not.
Oh, you're said there.
Like I said, no, you're still speaking within the framework of, the hobbyist will deal with it, and the answer is no. Reality is that most people who have anything as a hobby really suck at that hobby. That's the reality. No matter how much time or effort they put in, they're just.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe in the concept of patriotic duty?
Do I?
Do you believe in the concept of patriotic duty?
Yes and no. Depends You're about to say, "Oh, it's your patriotic duty to shovel shit." No, no. I dare you to go to any. I dare you to go to any communist group in a college and say, "Hey, shovel poop." I dare you.
Well, first
I
of all,
dare you.
we didn't have any toilets.
Wait, so say what you wanted to say very quickly, Smiles, and then we'll go on to the next question.
Like I said, it would just be, taken care of democratically. People would maybe you would have to do your chores, whatever that may be, once a year for an hour or two, and that would keep everybody clean. And then as soon as physically possible, we automate the process, and no one ever has to do it again.
Okay.
No, you're talking about the destruction of the division of labor.
Trucker. So anyway, on to the next question. This one is actually addressed to Trucker. Scorch asks him, Trucker, how will there be a government if no one is allowed to claim an I do not know what exactly he's trying to say there. It sounds like a bit of a typo. How will there be a government if no is allowed to claim another's labor? Taxes is a portion of their labor. Oh, if no one is allowed to claim another's labor. Okay.
Absolutely agreed. 110 trillion billion %. Taxation is the theft of labor when there is no representation or consent. I do truly believe that every American should have the ability to opt out of their taxation and their basically representation. And I do believe that maybe we should give over some part of land to anarcho land and be like, hey, if you don't want to be a part of America, go here. And you won't be taxed, but also you won't have government roads. You won't have firefighters. You won't have cops. You won't have government protection of your property. I dare you to take that up. Okay. And if
terrible way to start.
No, and if you can, the problem is that'll just devolve into anarcho-capitalism, which will just devolve into fucking feudalism.
Yeah.
Right. And my point on this is, you're right that taxation is a form of theft of labor as long as people aren't consented. But I would also say that if we want to have with our current complicated ass tax system, there are entire portions of the population who, once they get their money back, in the end, mathematically don't pay taxes. And
I have an
frankly,
answer for this question, by the way.
Frankly, my response to that is, if you don't get taxed, you shouldn't get to vote on the system. And in order to make that, what we have is a system right now where everybody is taxed, but then they get more money. Certain people get more money back than they were taxed. And for most of the time, that's poor people, but a fair amount of the time, that's also rich people. A disturbingly amount of the time, that's also rich people. All right. Mm-hmm. And I think if we're going to have everybody vote on the system, we need to go to a flat tax system. Otherwise, we need to go back to a system where it's like only property owners are taxed, or only certain people are taxed. And then at the same time, only those people get to vote. Because if you don't pay into a system, you should have no say in the system.
We are kind of taking a little bit long on that question, and we do have a little bit more to get to. So I think I'm going to just give an executive order and say we'll go on to the next question.
That's fine.
Jason Armitage, this might be a little bit more of a contentious question, and it's more directed towards Smiles. Jason Armitage asks, what would happen if someone doesn't give up whatever the Workers' Council declares to be private property? And if that answer is aggression upon said individual, how is that any different from a state?
So let me get this straight. So you're questioning someone doesn't want to give, doesn't want to make their employees shareholders?
Right. Basically, that's a great example of his question.
Well,
what happens to him?
If that's against the law, then he's breaking the law. He should go to jail.
Off to gulag.
I mean, we have the biggest prison population as it is now.
Nah, bullshit. China's a liar.
That may be true, but we definitely have the second biggest, if not the biggest.
Well, if you do proportional, China, Cambodia, Venezuela, North Korea, for sure. The idea that, and I would agree that we have too many people in prison, but this point is always silly to me.
Way too many. I also think prison is entirely misguided. I think it should be reformative prison, not retributive.
But anyway,
All right, so was this very quickly, or was this going to draw out the conversation over this?
Go on.
I was done, I believe.
All right, so on to the next one. Zachary Colley asks, and I think this is more directed towards Trucker, who says it needs to be regulatory? I think you might be referring to your whole environmental regulations statement from earlier, Trucker.
All forms of laws, rules, governance are some kind of regulation. That's just a regulation is just another word for control over certain actions.
Well, I think he's referring to the idea of environmental preservation. Why does it have to be regulated? If I may try my best to expound on his question.
I don't like if his idea is that people will just decide not to dump into the river. That's obviously not true, because basically people will look for the first excuse to get rid of responsibility on any scenario whatsoever. And like, that's just the way, like, here's a great example. Back in the day in the London River, the Thames River, as it's actually spelled, but they call it the Times River, whatever the fuck, in London, back before they had poop regulation, sewage regulation, literally everybody would shit in a bucket and throw it into the river. It got to a point where literally nothing lived in that river ever. And nowadays you see dolphins in that river. And now I'm not saying that you need as much regulation as you do today. I'm just saying without any regulations, humans will literally toss it and forget it, because that's human nature. Out of sight, out of mind.
All right, so
there's a reason I'm not an anarcho-capitalist.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have us speed along because we are approaching the 20-minute mark right here. That next question sounded like an expounding or an extension of his last question. Sounds like a bunch of red tape to me, plus we will ensure we get consulted at all on anything. Okay, so Zachary Colley asks, I think this is more to Smiley. So do you know what the word socialist meant back then? Well, like he says, he says, okay.
Back in my day.
He says, okay, cat, but I have a feeling that it might have been a typo that he meant to enter that and then ask his actual question. But, I mean, clarify, if you will, Zachary Colley, if what exactly you meant by that question. But nonetheless, so do you know what the word socialist meant back then, Smiles?
I don't know when back then is. What do you mean? When are we talking about?
He's probably mentioning prior to Marx, whenever his philosophy ended up overwhelmingly dominating socialist philosophy.
Plus, around the time of when that libertarian was first invented, as you were going on about earlier.
Yeah, I think the first version was social democracy, which is basically what I advocate for right now as the path towards freedom, which is basically just it takes money to make money. Okay,
so Zach actually clarified that was directed at the guy trying to claim Lysander was a socialist. I think he's referring to the him like conversing in the live chat. Oops, sorry about that, Zach. Anyway, so next question is actually directed towards both of you. This is from Zachary Colley. What would the two
in a microwave?
What?
Sorry.
It sounded like a microwave.
The trucker. If you have a whole bunch of background noise going on, I suggest muting yourself, like bags of chips or microwave or whatever. But anyway, so this question is directed to the both of you. What would the two of you say if we were to advocate privately funded mutual aid between families to help each other fund each other's healthcare, education, groceries, etc.?
That just sounds like charity.
It just sounds like a charity. Okay, that was Trucker's statement. What do you have to say to that, Smiles?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear it.
Okay, what would the two of you say if we were to advocate privately funded mutual aid between families to help fund each other's healthcare, education, groceries, etc.? And by the way, I suggest trying to like wean off of the live chat, Smiles, so as to help yourself not get distracted.
Okay. Yeah. So wait. So it's publicly funded mutual aid.
Privately funded. He says he did not say publicly. He said
that's
privately funded.
That just sounds like charity. I agree with.
Well, I
Which,
guess,
by the way, anybody who's on the brink of starvation and doesn't go to their local church or food bank is a fucking idiot.
Okay. I think what he's mean to ask that within regards to that question is, would you two think that is more preferable over welfare or anything else like that?
Literally anything is preferable to government-paid welfare.
Yeah. My answer is what is it? Yeah. Let's see. Healthcare, education, housing, nutrition. Once you provide those things, then you don't need welfare. You don't need charity. It's all that stuff. Now, again, I'm not asking for mansions. I'm not asking for, your own personal hospital bed. I'm saying, the minimum needed to survive in a constantly increased standard of living.
So forced labor and enslavement of people.
No, but okay.
Yes.
Do you guys want to spar over that a little bit, or shall we move on to the next question?
Yeah, because I'll explain.
We only have 5 left, so we're making good time. So I'll let you guys spar over that for a little bit.
We have more. We have more empty houses than homeless people. We have plenty of infrastructure within the medical field that could also use a lot of updating if we, invested in it instead of invested in as much as we did in like overnight, basically, to places like Israel and the military and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be forced labor. They would be well compensated. It's just that we would use taxes to do it rather than people. Again, it wouldn't be slavery. You would still be paid to do it.
So you are of the opinion that people shouldn't have to pay for their consumption of material goods, basically. Because that's literally what your philosophy. That's what your point means.
All right, let Smiles address your question.
I believe that yes, the society has the infrastructure and is obligated to provide the basic necessities of human life in a reasonable way.
No. If you are not capable of being worth at least as much as you consume, then you frankly don't deserve it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't receive charity. I'm not saying you can't receive donations. But frankly, if you can't pay for your own consumption at the bare minimum, then the reality is that morally you do not deserve it, because at that point you are a parasite.
What about disabled people?
Yeah, well, that's a different thing altogether. That's like the whole abortion argument. And what about people with health issues? That's less than 1% of the population. Mm-hmm. Disabled people might be however much percent of the population.
If we have time, we can go into it, but I think we should agree to disagree.
If somebody is unwilling to pay for their own consumption through their own labor, which is what I advocate for, then frankly, no. If you're not willing to pay for your own food and you starve to death as a consequence of it, when you are fully capable of paying for your own food, if you just got off your ass and worked, then frankly, you deserve to starve to death.
Okay, and so on that point, as Smile said, let's continue on. Speaking of working or starving, Zachary Colley's the next question was, work or starve? When has nature not dictated that?
Amen.
We could do that now. I mean, the Nordic countries are doing that pretty well. Finland's eradicated homelessness.
No, they haven't.
Yes, they have.
All they've created is a massive tax burden that's going to bite them on the ass, and they're going to undo it in 10 years.
Well, would you like to bet on that?
I don't bet, but it's already happened every time every country tried that.
All right. Well, we'll see.
My point
Seems
is
to be
this:
working
you are
right
not
now.
you. You could have said that of the 5-year plans of Stalin. My point is this.
I'm going to
is this.
repeat the question
go ahead.
again because I do not know if the question was like fully heard. Work or starve? Work or starve? When has nature not dictated that?
That's a philosophical question because I believe that we are nature.
Okay.
So I could argue now.
Do we want to go further into it? After that is just 4 more questions. No new questions have come
Also,
up.
I mean, tribes took care of each other in ancient times. Not everybody was a hunter and a gatherer. Anyway, regardless, let's move on. Next question.
All right, I guess so. I did just have one more question pop up, so now it is back to 5. Ozma Order asks a question for Trucker. How do you respond to Hans Hermann Hoppe's argument that if we are to have a state, an absolute monarchy would be preferable to republics? Trucker?
To him? Yeah.
Hey, Trucker. Pause that.
Uh-oh.
Pause the freaking timer. Trucker, did we lose you?
Oh, no.
Shit.
Oh, here he
Can
is.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. So sorry about.
I heard what you said. You couldn't hear me.
Okay. So you heard what was said, what was asked. So I guess I'll let you address it. Continue the timer now.
Anybody that brings up monarchism as a serious philosophical and governance method shall be dismissed with nothing more than that's fucking stupid. No.
Yeah. Anyway, seriously addressing
that needs no more legitimate argumentation than that. It's been dismissed like by 1,000 years of Western philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm against monarchy as well.
No, I refuse to take that seriously. It's not on the same morally despicable level, but it's on the same intellectually stupid level of somebody showing up and saying, "Oh, well, what about Nazism? Debate me seriously." No, I'm not debating the Nazis seriously.
Hey, I like you, man. You're fun.
Well, it's true. Like, no, it's such a debased, comically dismissed point. And keep in mind, I feel that same way about communism.
Fair enough.
Right?
I do too.
That it's not a seriously. I will never take it serious. It's
okay.
I
So
cannot describe the low of stupidity that I view that belief.
Okay, trucker, settle down. You know what? Screw it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and give you a strike because of how much you've been insisting on calling it stupid, and particularly Ozma Ordo's belief. I know you did not call him personally stupid or whatever, but
is he a monarchist?
I don't know what exactly he is.
If he's a monarchist, I will
sorts, but nonetheless. Anyway, moving on to the next question. So Zachary Colley asks, are either of you familiar with the economics essay I Pencil?
Yes, I love it.
I haven't heard of it. Can you summarize it?
Basically, it describes the fact of how a pencil is super simple, it's super cheap, but the moment you discuss where the graphene came from, the wood, the metal, the rubber, and petroleum for the eraser comes from, it's basically the ultimate division of labor thesis by talking about a pencil. Because
labor is very important.
Yeah, no, the division of labor, because it talks about how you have to have entire lumber industry to make one pencil. You have to have an entire metal extraction, refinement, and beyond that, refinement into a material for it. Same with graphene and same with rubber. It's a wonderful thesis, and anybody that reads that thesis and understands economics will be a capitalist.
Okay. So anyway, I guess that might be something more to look up for you, Smiles. But
Yeah,
moving
I
on
think
a bit.
specialization is very important. Yeah, I don't believe that capitalism is necessary to do it. I mean, for instance, literally, we've been doing that since tribal times. You know, hunter gatherers, people at home who do baskets and everything like that. The division of labor is quite clearly just part of life. So yeah, I agree. Continue.
All right. So anyway, so this question, this is a dual question between Night Shift 10,000 and Zachary Colley. Night Shift asks, SmileyP, would you consider democracy to be anarchist? And then Zachary Colley enters in. Follow up on Night Shift's question. If you say yes, then how would democracy be anarchist?
So the question is
in the chat, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I believe that. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty. I don't believe that they're synonymous, but I do believe that. Yeah, you need democracy in order to have anarchism. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. How else would you make? How else would you have decisions if you couldn't decide things?
Well, there's a reason that he will instantly have a mental block for that, and also I side with him on the matter. And that my idea of anarchy is basically the ultimate get off my land proposition of, hey, you infringe on, and just bringing it to its maximal extreme, you infringe on me in any way, shape, or form, you get shot. Get off my land, basically. You believe that a local community can democratically decide that we're going to take your land, and if you disagree, we shoot you. And what you're talking about isn't anarchism; it's localism. There is a difference.
I would like to let Smiley address that quickly.
No, I don't believe that anyone can democratically decide to take people's land or whatever in that sense. But I believe that I believe in anarchism through mutual aid and democracy. Getting rid of any unnecessary hierarchies by flattening it out as possible and giving as many people as much say as they need and desire.
So anyway,
wait. One more thing. I'm sorry. I should also mention again. First past the post is not the only form of democracy that has to exist either.
All right. So anyway, here's a question from Zachary Colley. So if a thief pickpocketed you, then used the part of the funds to buy you a coffee, does that mean it is now suddenly not theft? I think that's more to Smiles. Go ahead, Smiles.
That's an interesting philosophical question. I guess no, that would still be theft. Yeah.
It's theft. Shoot him the moment you feel his hand in your pocket.
Yeah, like I maybe didn't want that coffee. Don't take my money from me. I don't think that we, yeah, no, that's theft. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we're going to move on then. JC Armitage asks, isn't like half of Denmark's population completely dependent on the state, or at least one of those Scandinavian countries?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can't remember which one, but I know for a fact that like Sweden is less social democrat socialist stuff, so it's not Sweden.
Yeah. Yeah, like ultimately, like I said, I wanted automated interplanetary libertarianism. So ultimately, eventually, the state is no longer required. But until, we can facilitate the processes, the infrastructure of the state. Then yeah, I mean, capitalism uses a state. So I mean, unless you're again an ANCAP or something. But yeah, no, I think I don't understand the point of the question, really.
Can you reword that for me real quick? Can you say it again?
I don't know if there's any way that I
just repeat it. Just repeat it.
The question?
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't like half of Denmark's population completely dependent on the state, or at least one of those Scandinavian countries?
Okay. So after that, he went into the point about him, O'Neill Cylinder, hyper automated futurism, stuff, right? The problem is he's speaking to a real point here, in that if you democratize everything, including resources, the people will become dependent upon whatever organizational body is distributing resources. And this is true under any governing system, even yours. Okay. And the point of capitalism is that you democratically decide with your dollar instead of your vote what resources to get. Now, if it was perfect, there would be no need for regulation or Medicaid or anything like that, although I think all of it's gone too far in the modern neoliberal world. But that's what he's speaking to, is that you're creating a similar thing today where there is a cradle to grave welfare state.
Yeah, I don't think that voting with your dollar is a very democratic way of thinking. I think that, yeah, it should be, you should vote with your vote, not with your dollar.
Well, that's all a dollar is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if everybody could only vote with $1, then maybe that would be fine, but that wouldn't make any sense. So I think that a vote is different than
no, those who are more prosperous and more capable end up with more money and therefore more votes, and that's true. Why are the inept? Why are the inept and stupid have the same voting power as the intellectual and capable?
Why do the inept and stupid have more money than the intellectually capable also? I mean, it just seems like it's a bad system.
Name a dumb person that's rich besides Hassan Piker.
Donald Trump, pretty much anybody who's in the cult.
All right, look. No. Donald Trump might talk like a moron, but he isn't a moron.
You know what? I'm going to let Smiles talk a little bit more there, because you did blatantly cut him off, Trucker.
All right.
Or was you pretty much done, Smiles?
I mean, there's tons of dumb rich people. I mean, wealth is not a matter of it's not a measure of intelligence in any way.
But it's a measure of capability.
It's a measure of wealth, is all it is.
So you don't think that Steve Jobs was a very capable individual?
He could be, I guess. I don't know, but he didn't make all the money himself. His workers made most of his money, and most of the
they never would have been there without. They would not have been there without his resources and his money.
Exactly. So if they had those resources, and then they wouldn't need him. They could do it themselves.
They would never have come together without his resources. That's my point. He managed the people. He directed the people.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, most of those ideas, like the touch screen and the GPS and the what is it called, the gyroscope and everything, that was all publicly funded and discovered technology. He just decided to put it together and had enough capital to make it happen. If somebody else, it's not, and not to mention inherited wealth. You can inherit wealth. You can't inherit intelligence. You must.
Yeah, but something like 95% of people lose their inherited wealth within the first generation. So it's a non-point.
I would have to look that up.
Okay, so anyway, at that moment, at that point, we are going to move on to the next question from the live chat. I did give us a little bit more time to address a few more of the questions, because there's only a few more that I noticed here that are actual questions to be addressed that I've written down. So anyway, oh yes, Justin Thirsty Boy asks, how would you go about not allowing people into your communities? Question for Smiles.
That's a good question.
Democratically.
I think it
would be democratic.
What if 49% of people want to let him in?
Then, first past the post is probably not.
Do we suddenly have some train track that he's not allowed to pass?
It would probably have a a constitution and then just, hey, do you agree to abide by this constitution? Yeah, then sure. And if they decide to break it and they need to be kicked out, then they get kicked out. Yeah. But generally,
So-
I'd say it would be pretty much open borders, and it would be on you to get kicked out. Pretty much.
So what you're talking about is a constitutional democracy with treason laws.
I mean, it would have laws, but there wouldn't be any state, so it wouldn't be treasonous. There would be no such thing as treason.
Okay, equivalent to treason laws.
If somebody wanted to join an anarchist society, then they would just have to follow the rules, just like any other society. I don't see the problem.
The problem here is that you're replacing the word society. You're replacing the word government with society and coming to the exact same result.
And
Yeah, because I think we should replace government with society. I think society could run itself much better, but again, with the condition of housing, healthcare, education, and nutrition.
So there'd be a government to enforce
There
that.
would be infrastructure, yeah. Again, there would be whatever firm is required until it is no longer required, and then it would be run democratically by those involved. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's too simple. It doesn't allow for reality.
I mean,
You think that
simplicity
people could
actually
be molded?
works a
You
lot
think
better.
that
wait,
no.
one at a time, people.
The problem here is that you think that over time, if you set up these institutions, you could
Mhm.
culturally normalize certain things and reprogram humans, and that's just not true. There is an underlying nature of humanity.
Yeah, they would program themselves because they would make their own decisions rather than the government. Like if a law was unjust, they would, someone would be like, "Hey, I don't think this law is very good. Like I want to smoke weed," and then people would be like, "Yeah, I kind of want to smoke weed too," and then they'd be like, "Okay, let's smoke weed now."
No. My
have to go
point
through the
is,
government and
you think that humans are entirely reprogrammable. Like you think you can
I
create.
don't quite agree with the language you're using.
But you get
I believe that society can change. I think that people can change their mind given new information, if that's what you're asking.
Let me ask you this: do you think, through one method or another, whatever you want to call that method, reprogramming, re-education, whatever, that you could get rid of greed?
I believe you can disincentivize it, and therefore, make it less likely to happen. Yeah, if that's what you're asking. If you incentivize, if you incentivize progress and humanity, making sure that everybody has a good standard of living that is continually increasing, then yeah, you could disincentivize greed pretty easily that way. Because think of it like here, let me finish. No. Yeah, think of it in a tribal society again. If you are working, if you are in a hunter-gatherer society, and you suddenly just have this great idea that everybody keeps what they kill. Hello, can you hear me? Am I heard?
Hey, Trucker.
Hello.
Trucker, are you able to hear either of us?
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I guess I can't.
Trucker.
Hello.
Hello. You might have to. Let me remove him and put him back in.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We both can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I have no idea what happened there. But you were saying incentivize.
Mutual aid incentivizes, working together. We're like basically we're all better off when we're all better off. We make everything, better so that people, want to continue to be better. But again, going back to the tribal society, normally the way it works is these guys go out and hunt and they bring back the meat. And then, these people stay and farm. and then they share all of their food together so that everybody eats. If one day one member decides, you know what, I'm not going to share anymore, I'm going to keep what I kill, and then, you know, maybe if you kill a gazelle, you get that whole gazelle and you don't have to share it with the rest of the tribe, but then the rest of the tribe doesn't want to share with you anymore. And then eventually, you know, you're not going to get that kill. You're not going to have access to the farm, you know, materials. You're not going to have access to the spears that the spear guy makes. It's just you disincentivize it. It's like that.
All right. Well, let me point something out though here. What you are describing is the literal result of capitalism.
I disagree.
No,
I
can explain perfectly why.
Okay, go ahead.
Your phone. Well, I don't know what phone you have. I'll use my phone. I have an Android. It costs $200, right? 30 years ago, a phone that could only do 1/100th, maybe even 1/1,000,000th, what my phone can do, cost about $500. So what ended up happening is that individuals who were capable came together under a corporation, that would be Apple, created the iPhone. iPhone decided to contract out their technology, which created Android. And the people that worked to make the original iPhone got really wealthy. The scientists and stuff that worked in Apple got lots of money. They did. The dude who organized the people got really wealthy. And everybody benefited because now I can get a $200 Android. Hell, I can get a $50 Android these days, actually. And everybody's life was improved because, quite frankly, you can get $50 in a day if you beg on the side of the road. And what you're talking about is the incentivization of the increasing of everybody's living standards. That is literally That is literally exactly what capitalism has resulted in. Because nowadays, everybody has a car, everybody has a fridge, near everybody. I'm talking like 99% of people have a fridge, car, phone, TV, cable, internet. And just 40 years ago, this wasn't true.
Go ahead, Smiles.
Yeah, so basically what you're talking about is so in order to incentivize progress, you can the one way to incentivize it is through profit. If you make progress happen only by profit, then profit becomes the goal at the expense of all else, which is why we have, you know, are dealing with things like global warming now, because it is much more profitable to, you know, waste and, you know, just blow smoke up into the atmosphere and everything, and use fossil fuel burning engines rather than it is to, you know, even though it's getting better now because of, you know, it had to take investment. But again, no one started investing into solar panels until it became profitable. If the incentive is creating a better world for everyone, then people do things because they want to do them, because they want the world to get better. Whereas under capitalism, the only reason things progress is because it will eventually make money. And if it's not profitable, even if it's a good idea, it doesn't get invested in.
All right.
Whereas under my system, it would get invested in.
Well, how would you incentivize it then, other than profit? Profit, we can literally replace profit with climbing the hierarchy.
Okay, so hold on. Let me
Pumpkin Row also asks on this point, no, expense of what? Specify. All else is just fear mongering.
I don't know what that means.
Wait, what?
So
go on, Smiles.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. So basically, if you have so school education and everything is free, right? So you have an idea, you go to school, you learn about computers, and then you, on your own time, you've seen people on YouTube just design like crazy robots and stuff, right? You just have those people, give them as much, you know, as we can possibly give them, and then they design stuff, and then they build stuff for fun, and then one day they come across this amazing technology like a cell phone or whatever, like the iPhone, and then instead of, you know, doing it for money, they just did it because they could play around and learn with whatever they wanted, and then instantly everybody gets access to that sort of technology and that patents, and then suddenly the whole world moves forward by, you know, 100 years because we each have the ability to create iPhones, and you know, and then we all get what are they called? 3D printers and everything like that. I think that progress would happen way, way better if we made it democratically and by access of just trial and error rather than specifically with the thought of return.
But by the way, Trucker, I am going to leave it right there for Smiles to be the last one to have said something on that point, because we do have at least 2, like 3 more questions actually. Sorry, Trucker. The question was more directed.
Yeah, we can talk later.
Was more directed at Smiles, so that last one, anyways. I guess I'm going to ask this question right now, skip a couple of questions and ask this one right now because it's more in context. Pumpkin Row asks, hey, Smiley, does everyone sign the Constitution or is it a social contract? I think he is directing that question more on the point of a community of people that get to kick out whoever they want because they don't agree with their lifestyle or whatever.
You know, it would really just depend. That's the thing about democracy, is it just depends on what the will of the people want.
Well, to reiterate the question, hey, Smiley, does everyone sign the Constitution or is it a social contract? Any way you want to reword your response?
It would, I guess it would be a social contract that here's the rules if you want to know them, and if you break them, we try to rehabilitate you.
Let me ask you this then. Do the people get to democratically decide to be anti-Semitic and not allow Jews to own business or property in their community?
That's a possibility, but I think that through the benefits of mutual aid outweigh the all you're doing is limiting the labor pool when you do that. I'd say more labor, more people, more better. The more people you have, the more labor power you have, the more minds you have working together. So if you were to limit people like being anti-Semitic or something, you would just it would just be limited by having all those people not allowed in there, and then they wouldn't be able to contribute.
I agree, absolutely. We should absolutely expand the ability of people to engage in labor should they want to and profit from their labor. Because profiting from people's labor is
profit from progress.
Profiting from your own labor is the only real reason to do it, because otherwise you end up with hobbyists who will probably never achieve anything 9 out of 10 times.
But that 1 out of 10 times will come out with something amazing, and then it'll benefit the whole world, and then we have more people. It's the law. That's why I said allow more people. The more people we have, a million bad ideas, you get 1 good idea for every million bad ideas. There's billions of people on the planet. You get millions of good ideas a second. The more
your philosophy would take 1,000 times longer to achieve your O'Neill cylinder future than mine would.
What if we collectively decided that we wanted O'Neill cylinders, and so we incentivized people to create them?
What if the one guy who actually was smart enough to do that didn't want to, and he was a hobbyist, I don't know, wood carver?
Okay, well then there's other people. We've contemplated and known about O'Neill cylinders since the 60s and 70s. It's not even a new idea.
Yeah, but you get my point.
You think people like Isaac Arthur would not contribute because instead of getting paid money, they get a better lifestyle? The payment is that you get to live in an O'Neill cylinder.
He's literally
you get to be the guy who invented them.
He's literally a paid physicist. So quite frankly, yes, without being paid, he wouldn't be as smart on the matter as he is.
All right, address that very quickly, Smiles, and then we're going to go on to the next question.
Oh, I would say that he would still be smart, if not smarter, if he could spend full time doing what he was passionate about rather than just learning and discovering and moving into physics. If he could learn about physics, and still put food on the table, then yeah, I think he would. And I know
No, Isaac Arthur is a physicist. He's literally a paid physicist.
Trucker. What I said earlier, I said that I was gonna let Smiles say what he wanted to say very quickly, and then we were going to move on.
Fair enough.
All right, we can move on.
Sorry, it's just the question that is directed to whatever person that they are the last one to respond to that question or the dialogue on that question as well. Or at least they're allowed to be the last one anyways. That's my personal rule with these debate formats. So just two more questions, and then well, there's one more question, but it's not really relating to the debate technically. But just two more questions, and then we'll get into closing statements. Why should I? Okay, Zachary Colley asks, why should I, as an autist from a special needs family, go through the state for my loved one's needs when I could just use non-government alternatives that get rid of the red tape and are voluntary? Question for Smiles, I believe.
So what are they asking exactly?
I have a better way of rewording it for him.
Okay.
He's saying, why should I go through the democratically decided way of dealing with my family's personal issues instead of the way that I personally knows works best?
So instead of democratically getting to decide what you think works best, you would rather do what somebody else thinks works best.
No, he'd rather do what he knows works best.
Yeah, so he should have a say, or they should have a say in what they think works best, and then they should be able to pursue that. Yeah.
I think what he is kind of saying is that he would rather either do it either by himself, or B, voluntarily with other people, rather than C, going to the forcefully coerced collective for the assistance.
Basically, what I would imagine would be that there would be a council of autistic people, and they would work with other autistic people, and they would decide what works best for people with autism.
So 4chan,
and that person would be able to contribute. And that is a good one. That's funny. 4chan. Yeah.
But anyway, so I guess we'll move on to the next question. This is the final one from Night Shift. Why can't individuals just make decisions for themselves without any outside organizations making decisions for individuals? This might kind of relate.
That would be the whole point, is they would have access to make their own decisions.
No.
Do you want to be a carpenter? Do you want to be a computer person? Go try it. If it doesn't work out, try something else.
No. His point is deeper than that. Let's say that you individually believe in one thing will work, whatever that thing is, right? But literally 99 point, you are the only person on the planet who believes this. And everybody else democratically votes against you. And therefore, in this democratic society, even though you are correct, you're voted to be wrong. And therefore, you're not allowed to do it.
We need an example.
You don't get the resources.
We need an example of something that you would want to do. Like if you say you wanted to make a video game, and you're like, this is the best video game idea I could possibly think of. So what you would do is you would be like, hey, you think this is a good idea? And everyone's like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. So basically, I would just leave it up to meritocracy. I would say, go to school, learn how to code, but for free, without having to put yourself in debt, and then try to make that video game. And then once you start making a prototype, then you show it to people, and maybe some other people do decide, hey, that is kind of a good idea. Maybe I could help out. And then this and that and blah, blah, blah. You put the idea out there, and then, maybe somebody decides they do want to do it, and then there you go. The point is, people won't vote to say no. They'll vote to say no whether or not they wish to contribute to it.
Okay.
So investment firms are suddenly legitimized under your idea.
In the terms of labor, yeah. Investing labor.
Right.
And whatever other possible thing you could invest, yeah.
So, on that point, I think we are going to go ahead and go into closing statements, as that was the last question that I had officially written down before I decided to, put a cap on the questions. So, yeah. Since it was Trucker first at the beginning of this debate, he will also be the first to give his closing statement, and then SmileyP. And I suggest that you try to use up as much of your time as possible, because it's not a guarantee that your opponent will allow you to use up whatever leftover time that you had left and would like to, end up using because you had like a change of mind as far as what you wanted to say in your leftover time. But anyway, so Trucker, are you ready?
Sure.
All right, your 5 starts now.
All right, so reality is that getting down to the point of the matter of the collective, I think I have proven quite undeniably that a collective incentive is just another word for climbing up the quote-unquote hierarchy. That's the only way to incentivize anything, is to improve status, improve quality of life individually, climb up the hierarchy, get more money. Furthermore, in response to this, my opponent here, SmileyP, has only been able to say, well, we incentivize things, we democratize it. And it's like, I'm speaking to real world how you do that. You're speaking to some amorphous idea in the clouds. The sky daddy of economics, basically, as far as I can tell, because I literally, I'm the only one speaking to the real world how you would incentivize that. Furthermore, in response to how would we decide division of labor and whatnot, your response is, well, hobbyist. And it's like, as I've stated several times, and as anybody with a hobby and who knows other hobbyists can tell you, most hobbyists suck at their hobby. And a lot of the times that's not just because they don't have the time to invest in it. It's just something they naturally suck at. Furthermore, while you have, the thing is that you are at a point of unironically advocating that people shouldn't have to produce a minimum as much as they consume, which directly incentivizes laziness and which will directly contribute to societal collapse, frankly, because a lazy society is one that collapses, obviously, like self-evidently so. And a lazy society doesn't advance. And these things, and furthermore, in response to people's genuine concerns about consent, you always come up with like, oh, well, they'll just vote yes, they won't vote no. It's like, well, in that way, not voting yes is inherently voting no. And then on top of that, you have to go back and do whatever work you were doing beforehand, because no society will allow you to not work. And I'm just saying, like, your philosophy inevitably breaks matters of individual consent. It undeniably violates people's personal autonomy and choice, while at the same time incentivizing laziness and incentivizing stagnation of a society. And if you want your O'Neill cylinder future, the reality is that you need to give people a reason to do this, because otherwise, let's be honest, most guys will just sit at home, eat food, and jerk off. And that's my closing statement.
Alrighty.
All right, so that was 1 minute and 47 seconds, and I'm going to do the solo layout with smiles now. So restarting the timer. You ready, Smiley?
How long is it?
You get 5 minutes as well.
Cool, perfect.
All right, so you're starting now.
All right, so I think we, as a society right now, we make more, we throw out basically more money than we eat. We make way more than we could need in order to feed everybody. We have more houses than homeless people. So simply, if we grant, but unfortunately, the reason that we do that is because it's more profitable to just throw out extra food that doesn't get sold, and therefore the people who can't afford it can't eat. And it's more profitable to create mansions that people can't afford than to just create simple, decent housing that most people would have and able to live by. So if we instead we take all that stuff, we invest in it, making it possible so that everybody has a house, everybody has access to healthcare, everybody has access to education. and basic nutrition, then people can spend their time doing what they want, going to school, learning, laboring, however they wish, trying their hobby. If they're not very good at it, then, you know, at least they can try it, try something else. They don't have to waste time basically proving that they are worth being able to afford to eat by working at some company that they have no control over. I think that you should be able to, if you work within, if something involves you, if you work for somebody, if you work in an institution, you should have a say in how that institution is run. And it is basically up to the people there to decide how they wish to run it themselves. And everybody should have as much autonomy individually and collectively as possible. I think mutual aid is the most effective way of doing that. We're all better off when we're all better off.
All right, was that it?
That'll be it.
All right, 3 minutes and 20 seconds to spare. Awesome. All right, so I guess that is the end of the debate, y'all. So, for closing of this live stream in general, I just have one particular live chat to read out here. Osmo Ordo, who was the guy who asked the monarchism question, Trucker, he goes asking, want to debate that there, Trucker?
No, it's even more laughable than Nazism, frankly.
Oh, sort of a hot.
Nazism is dismissible because it's evil. Monarchism is dismissible because it's funny. Only reason I'm willing to debate communist is because there's too many of them in our society these days.
But anyway, so on that point, I would like to thank my opponents here, or my opponents, my debaters here for participating and being generally civil with this within this debate. It's a whole lot more civil than the last one that I had hosted. And in closing, in outro of you two as people, what would you like to say to the audience?
Don't get your political advice from 4chan or your mental health advice from 4chan, unless you're giving it, in which case, I love the green text.
So, Smiles?
My name is SmileyP. You can find me on YouTube. I do economics and spirituality. I will debate anybody, provided that they are good faith. And I just basically, I believe in freedom. And also, thank you to everybody in the comments who watched and asked those questions. I really appreciated being able to answer those things and hopefully help explain libertarian socialism to everybody. And thank you, Trucker, for having our great discussion. And thank you, DarkCon, for being an amazing host. I was quite impressed with that. Very well done.
All right.
Everybody.
You don't have to kiss my ass, at least not on stream, Smiles. So let's save it for off air at least.
You were a great host, and I promise to give you $100 towards a stripper next time I see you.
Sounds like a plan.
But anyway, so thank you all for your live chat comments, and thank you all for the some of the dankness that you have provided, some of the edgy jokes and whatnot. And again, thanks these two people for participating. And I gotta say, Trucker, that is a rather adorable profile picture that you have on there.
It's a bunny stealing an oatmeal cookie. It's fucking adorable.
Yeah, but
it is
eating
pretty
oatmeal cookies. But anyway, I am the host of Strike Force, the Dark Conservatarian, and up next on Strike Force will most likely be the interview with Philosophossum. Do not know exactly when that will be, but stay tuned for that. And whatever response video that I get out, the next response video that I'm working on will be the response to the Gravel Institute, that being a request from Mikhail the Stray Cat. I am still working on that, Mikhail. So anyway, thank you all for watching. See y'all later. Good night. God bless. And yeah, take care.